Greetings, YouTube. As most Americans know, the Affordable Care Act has been, over time, slowly being put into place in America. And we're rolling up to the point where employers will be required to provide insurance for employees that would allow them access to emergency contraception. Now, let me state from the get-go before I go any further. Emergency contraception is just that. It is contraception. It prevents the fertilization of an egg. The sperm and egg don't ever get to meet. As soon as sperm enters a woman, it does not instantaneously fertilize an egg. So emergency contraception is contraception. It's not abortificant. It is not an act or a form of abortion. It is contraception. Okay, now that we've gotten that clear, the hobby store, Hobby Lobby, has decided rather than provide insurance for their employees, which would allow them access to emergency contraception, that they're going to pay a fine to the tune of $1.3 million a day rather than comply with the Affordable Care Act, which is some kind of a statement. And you'd think with profit margins being as tight as they are in the 21st century, and there being ample competition both on other big box stores such as AC Moore's and Michael's, and more mom and pop style hobby stores, you would find people less likely to do something this, in my opinion, obviously suicidal. But they seem to think that this is a principled stand that they want to make. Except I don't think it's a principled stand at all. Because I don't think this is about abortion, which it isn't involved at all with. I don't think it's about contraception. I think this is about the Hobby Lobby corporate officers having the power to tell their female employees what they can or cannot do with their bodies. Because that's what it comes right down to. I realize that emergency contraception, being an emergency process, isn't all that common. It's, of the different types of contraception, it's the least common. But there are lots of types of contraception out there that I'm sure Hobby Lobby isn't happy about either. But this, and they also make a big point about not being open on Sundays, that their families can be together. Apparently they make an exception for that in case this is where they need to have someone do inventory. Then it's okay to take people away from their families and have them work on Sundays. But does this mean that they allow Jews to have off Saturdays? Or Muslims to have off Fridays? If the Hobby Lobby corporate officers were, say, not evangelical Christians, what if they were Christian Scientists? Would they be able to tell their employees, I'm sorry, you can't have any kind of medical coverage, all you have to do is pray? Or if they're Jehovah's Witnesses, would they say you can't have Christmas off? That would be another case of a corporation's religious position superseding the religious freedom of their employees. I, of course, disagree with all of this. I think the Affordable Care Act, while a step in the right direction, is a baby step, and that we should have our insurance in America completely disengaged from employment at all. It should be a single-payer universal health care system that we all pay into through our taxes and is not tied to our employment at all. It would be ours. It would belong to the American people. It would have nothing to do with corporations whatsoever, which is something I think that we desperately need. But this particular case here, the corporation Hobby Lobby is showing that it really doesn't care for its employees at all. That it's willing to throw more money away a day than it could use to make sure that all of their employees were healthy and well paid. Now, they keep touting themselves as a hardcore Christian company. But can someone explain to me how this is Christian? How this is about making sure that everyone in your community is well cared for? Because remember, the only two commandments that Jesus ever spoke about were love thy God and love thy neighbor. But apparently in the Hobby Lobby view of the universe, you only have to love your neighbor when your neighbor does exactly what you want them to do. If your neighbor does something that you don't want them to do, you are allowed not to care for them. You are allowed not to love them. you are in fact allowed to make sure that they cannot have access to the thing that they need. That doesn't sound very Christian to me. It doesn't sound very ethical or moral. And the government has said it doesn't sound very legal. But they're willing to take that fine. And so I guess I have to admire them for that. Even though at the same time I'm hoping that they get driven out of business as fast as possible. And maybe their employees can go work for someone that isn't going to try to tell them what they can and cannot do with their own bodies. It'll be interesting to see how this all pans out, because eventually it's going to end up in front of the Supremes. And we'll see how they have to rule it. That should be interesting. I'm still waiting for them to make the call on Prop 8. So I'm interested in hearing from my subscribers and viewers. What do you think about this? Should the Hobby Lobby corporate members have the right to tell their employees what medical procedures they have access to? Should they be able to deny them access to contraception? I want to know. I think it's important that we talk about these kind of things, because they're not going away, folks. We really need to kind of hammer this all out.